Okay, I'm sorry about that, everyone. My brain just wasn't working very well. I didn't think the quality was particularly good, so we're just going to start off. Some of the stuff I was saying just about Ukraine, I felt I didn't do my homework enough for, and I don't want to put out potential misinformation without evidence. So we're just going to put a pin in that for now, and I might see if I can do some more work on that, and we'll talk about it later. But we can at the moment talk about the whole Israel Gaza situation. The whole Israel Iran Hezbollah situation, as I did do some pre reading for that. So, for those of you who aren't aware, a lot of stuff has happened in the past couple of past day or so. I suppose you could say. Let me just share this on. Let me just share this. Okay. All right, we're starting over again. We're starting over again. So, allegedly, Hezbollah made a mortar attack on, I forget where it was. They made a mortar attack on a location in the Golan Heights, which supposedly killed, I think it was something like a dozen children. It apparently killed a bunch of kids. And interestingly, though, it was not a Jewish settlement, it was a Druze settlement. So that raises some questions of whether Hezbollah would deliberately be targeting the Druze. Maybe they view them as being uh, traitors to the cause of Arab unity. Maybe they, I don't know. It is very sussy though, and who knows at this point in time. I wouldn't put anything past Israel. It's entirely possible to me that this is some sort of G-slur op or some sort of 24-hour thing. Yeah, so uh, Drew's community agrees. There's a strike from Hezbollah which killed 12. I mean, who knows if that actually happened or not? It's been, yeah, the whole thing there is completely wild. It doesn't really endanger much confidence that Israel wouldn't do something like that when you have the rape riots going on. So, what wound up happening um, for those of you who aren't aware, okay, so there were some Israeli troops who alleged to have raped Palestinian prisoners. I'm not sure if the prisoners are male or female or both, but they were torturing and raping prisoners and doing a whole bunch of stuff they weren't supposed to be doing. So the Israeli military police arrested them, and in response, the right wing parts of the Israeli government, along with a number of settlers, stormed the bases to try to release get the soldiers released and to allow them to do the uh, continue on with the rape and torture and stuff like that. I think there was multiple ministers of parliament. Um, we had let's see here, Ben Gavir, the head of the Jewish People's Power Party, Smorich, and a number of other guys were just basically going, look, it's based that they were raping and torturing Palestinians. We're going to riot if any of these people are held accountable for any of the stuff that they did. What is his party at the moment? I think it's Religious Zionist Party. I think so. Is what he's still doing. What was Yamina again? Is that another? Yeah, it was another far right party. But yeah, so you have riots, and so within the context of that happening, it does not endanger much confidence Israel's willingness to not do false flags like this. I mean, it's very possible it was Hezbollah, but it's maybe not the best idea to have something like that happen, and then 2 days later, a big OMG, the Druze, not Jewish Israelis, but Druze Israelis got killed by a Hezbollah attack, and it was that the kids who got killed by the Hezbollah attack. So that I think kind of explains that. So, in response to that, Israel has done a whole bunch of offensives. I think there was some other stuff that happened. Basically, Hezbollah and Israel have been just taking pot shots at each other for a while now. So Israel launched a series of attacks. They, I think, made strikes in southern Lebanon. They made attacks on, I think, yes, Israeli airstrikes. There's been a number of those against Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. They also launched airstrikes against Beirut. I think they killed a senior Hezbollah leader. I think it was the commander-in-chief of their military was killed in that attack. You had some strikes against Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. But the big one, and the one that I think is why I say Israel's speedrunning World War III, is the assassination of the prime minister of Hamas. So there's two aspects of Hamas. There's the Hamas that operates in Gaza and the Hamas that's based in Qatar. Now, the Qatar branch I don't think is more moderate ideologically, but from what I've heard, they're a little more polished and they're more open to diplomacy. They're less militant than the branch of Hamas that operates in the Gaza Strip, but that could just not be the case. I'm not entirely sure. But anyways, so as you guys all know, the president of Iran died under bizarre circumstances a couple months back, or maybe it was just a month back, when he was put on the sussy helicopter and went unescorted over the mountain range in Azerbaijan. The sussy helicopter was like some American-made, poorly maintained helicopter from the 1970s. Why they didn't use the newer Russian ones, I don't know. And then his helicopter like crashed with no survivors in like the mountains of Azerbaijan, and the whole thing was really weird. So they had an election. I believe it was the Reform candidate won, and he was being inaugurated, and Khamenei had invited the political leader of Hamas, what was his name again? Ismail Haniyeh, to attend the inauguration of the new president of Iran. So he went there, he attended it. Apparently Israel had been tracking him for a while. So the narrative I've heard is he was having a conversation with his son on WhatsApp, and Israel like was able to track that, and they fired a missile or a bomb or something, and they killed him. So they have killed the leader of Hamas in Iran while he was a guest and under the protection of the Iranian government. Now, this is something that just no one can allow us to stand. Like, particularly in the Middle East and in Islamic and Arab culture, in Persian culture as well, guest right is very important. And he was their guest. He enjoyed their protection. And Israel is doing that. Keep in mind that technically speaking, Iran and Israel aren't even directly at war. And Israel just goes, look, we're just going to fire missiles into Iran. We're going to kill visiting heads of government, and that's cool. And try to stop us. Try to stop us from doing it. That's just the way that we roll. Is basically was Israel's response to this whole thing. So so he's dead now. I'm not sure who's going to take over as the political leader of Hamas, but it's bad, and Iran is vowing retaliation. Let's go to Twitter for a second, because there's some fun stuff going down on Twitter. I'm gonna be like, what percentage of the pro-Israeli people are, and I'm sorry to say it this way, are like psychopaths who just want to see people die? Because I do have to like wonder sometimes with some of the stuff that they post. So let me see here. Where is what Khamenei is saying? So Ayatollah Khamenei, let's see here. Following the bitter, tragic event which has taken place within our borders of the Islamic Republic, it is our duty to take revenge. I offer my condolences. Okay, let's see here. They're calling him a martyr, willing to sacrifice his honorable life in this dignified battle for many years. The criminal, terrorist Zionist regime has martyred our dear guests on our territory and caused our grief, but is ground for severe punishment. I mean, like, what if the situation was reversed? Let's do that game, because that's what we like to do. What if, I'm trying to think of an equivalent. What would an equivalent be? What's a U.S. client state? I'm trying to think of one. Who do we have at the moment? I'm trying to think. Armenia. Okay, that's a good one. So let's say Pashinyan went to the United States, and Russia took the opportunity to drone strike him. Would that lead to World War III? I think it would. It is just an insult. Or Justo, yeah. Or Justo goes there, and then, I don't know, North Korea drone strikes Zelensky. Yes, that's good. Russia drone strikes Zelensky while he's in the United States, or Poland, or some other country. Is kind of the equivalent of this. It's just, yeah. It would be World War III. Now, I think this is very... Let's see what AIPAC, because this is what I was referring to. Where are we? Okay. Let's see. Where is the thing where it's celebrating his death? Is the Hamas decision maker for any deals? I'm trying to see here. Just, there was one this morning I was looking at. Here we go. America is safer without Hamas terrorist Ismail Haniyeh, who had the blood of many of Americans on his hands. How many Americans has Hamas actually killed? Could someone maybe like let me know in the chat? Is that like a thing that's happened a lot? That kind of stuff. Okay, we have all these people coming out. Death of Hamas's political leader. Terrorists with American blood on their hands should be mourned by no one, especially by a major non-NATO ally like Qatar. Maximum pressure on Hamas terrorists is the best way to secure the release of hostages. I mean, that's just how it works. I mean, that's how it works. You can just airstrike, you could just missile strike someone in a third country, and that's okay. I mean, that's kind of the Obama doctrine at this point in time. But is that what the rules-based international order is about? Is about Israel doesn't like someone, so they can just kill a head of state in another country? There's a reason why we don't have assassinations of heads of state that often, because it's a bad road that people don't want to go down. Because if Israel does this, then that means that, okay, well, Bibi can be assassinated. And then if Ukraine's been trying to assassinate Putin, if Putin gets assassinated, Zelensky can get assassinated, and then I was going to say Biden, but we're not sure if Biden's really alive at this point in time. So it's just it's like a thing we don't want to go down, and people don't want to start killing senior government officials. So it's once again it's everything Israel does kind of reminds me a lot of what some stuff that happens in Game of Thrones, like with the Red Wedding. Like the Red Wedding worked because it violated like a fundamental norm of international, of relations between different parties within that universe, and that's kind of what Israel will often do. Is they'll just violate fundamental aspects of it. We have Senator John Kennedy. We have all these people calling for his death. I'm trying to find the thank you for standing with our democratic ally Israel. Stone Cold Lloyd Austin is saying if Israel attacked, we'll certainly assist in defending it. What he means is if Iran decides to retaliate for the fact that Israel killed a visiting head of state on its territory. So that's interesting. Let's see here. We have dozens of foreign ministers. Okay, so let's see what this nonsense is. Israel carried out yesterday a precise strike in Beirut against Fawad Shakur, known as whatever, who is responsible for the murder of 12 children who were playing soccer in X location. He was on the United States Most Wanted list. Israel does not want a war. Israel wants... So all Israel wants, and we'll look at this here, is that Hezbollah disarm in accordance with UN Security Council Resolution 1701. Israel's a big supporter of the UN, a big supporter of UN resolutions, a big supporter of all that stuff. Israel is not interested in a war with Hezbollah, but the only way to prevent it is the immediate implementation of Resolution 1701. I mean, it's true. If only the Israelis if only Hezbollah and everybody else in the world did what the UN told them to do, it would have been okay. Let's see here. We have all these people who are cheering on his death and stuff like that. So that stuff all happened. So it's starting to look like what we're going to see is Iran basically at this point in time has to do something. Like, I don't think there really even is a option. Blue Tea makes a good point. Technically, the Golan Heights are part of Syria. So, technically, wouldn't they be Syrian? I mean, I guess they're Israeli citizens, but... I mean, it's occupied territory. So, what's thought is going to happen is Hezbollah, because they killed the head of the Hezbollah military, and they killed the head of Hamas, Hezbollah is going to step things up. Hezbollah, to my understanding, has something like 120,000 missiles that they can fire at Israel. And they can just start firing those basically whenever they want. I mean, obviously they don't have Israeli citizenship. Okay. So it's literally just Syrians. Wait a minute. If they didn't have Israeli citizenship, okay, that makes it even more likely that this was some sort of 24-hour op Israel did in order to justify their nonsense. I like how they put on this map, stones were thrown at settlers' vehicles. Like, that's the equivalent. That's worth putting on this location. But Israel acting so unhinged as to... So... There's also been reports that so Israel has started to hint that they're going to do an invasion of South Lebanon. that they're going to do a I don't know if it's going to be an air or a ground offensive against Hamas in southern Lebanon, an attempt to defeat them or destroy them or whatever the political goal is in question. Now, I was doing some research because one might ask themselves, if Israel is like the whole Gaza operation, I know they've killed a lot of people and they've destroyed a lot of stuff, and I'm sure they've, like, the times that Hamas has actually fought them, they've won, but they like, things aren't like going super well on the Gaza Strip. Like, they're still there. They still have all these people mobilized. The country's burning through all kinds of money. You have the Chads in Yemen who have started to launch missiles at them. I mean, the whole thing is like not going particularly well. It's gone on way too long. I mean, in 3 months we're going to come up on a year, or actually two, because okay, so August, September, October. Yeah, in 3 months we'll be coming up on a year that this whole thing has taken place. And they haven't destroyed Hamas. They haven't achieved really anything other than just getting a bunch of people killed. So if they can't deal with that, how are they going to do against Hezbollah? Now, who exactly is Hezbollah? So Hezbollah, for those of you who aren't aware, Lebanon has arguably the most complex politics of any country on earth. It's a country that has... let me see what the current demographics are of Lebanon. It was initially supposed to be the ethno-state for Christians in the Middle East, because initially it was majority or plurality Christian, and Christians had a majority of seats in parliament. I'm just trying to find where the religious demographics are. Religion, Lebanon. I'm just trying to find it. So in Lebanon, you have Sunni, Shia, and Christians are roughly about are similar percentages of the population. There is a Christian plurality, but Sunni and Shia are exactly even, with the balance being Christian. So it is an inherently extremely unstable situation in the country, and there's been numerous civil wars, with some people siding with different groups. During the Lebanese Civil War, Israel actually intervened and to help out the Maronite Christians against, I think it was partially Hezbollah at the moment. I think it was more against the Sunnis. But basically the country is very anarchic. There's political crises every other week. The central government is very not particularly strong. It's gone through periods where it's been a Syrian client state. And kind of into this, the chaos and dysfunction of Lebanon, we had Hezbollah take the place. Let's just bring up Hezbollah. So Hezbollah, also known as the Party of God, which I'm going to admit is a pretty base name, was founded towards the end of the end of the Lebanese Civil War. And it has kind of become a proto-state or a state within a state. So Hezbollah is basically a government in all but name. My understanding is it collects taxes, it gets donations from Muslims all across the world, and it gets a lot of funding from Iran and other Shia groups elsewhere. And they provide all kinds of stuff that like a government would provide. I'm sorry I'm using Wikipedia, but it's the best summary. So Hezbollah doesn't just provide military protection. They have hospitals, clinics, schools, agricultural centers. They fund a lot of people to go to college. If there's a disaster or something like that, they will go and provide aid. They have organizations that provide pensions to widows of fighters who die. They have, I think, their own like theme parks or something like that. But they provide all kinds of services for the Shia population in uh, Lebanon, so they're very well beloved there. They're very well uh, put into it. My understanding is in recent years they've toned down the Islamic nationalism a bit and become a little bit more inclusive. So I think they are trying to have some sort of alliance with some of the Christian factions. Um, there's a bunch of different Christian factions in Lebanon. It's all very complicated, but basically Hezbollah has a lot of legitimacy to it. Um, it has a lot of legitimacy to it. It has a lot of support among uh, the Shia population, but also some support among the Christian and Sunni population. And beyond the social services, Hezbollah has a strangely large army. Um, they have, let me see if I can find it. So Hezbollah has an army now. I've heard all kinds of different numbers. I was looking at this a bit. It's changed a lot over time. The numbers that I've seen is Hezbollah has roughly um, 20,000 full time soldiers. Now, I've seen a whole bunch of different numbers for this, but Hezbollah has something like 20,000 or so soldiers at any time, and another, as it says here, 20,000 reservists. And this is what the numbers that I've seen elsewhere. And they have a bunch more people that they can call up if they need a little more time. Now, unusual for a non-state actor, Hezbollah's army is actually very well trained. They tend to recruit people who are more educated than average. A lot of them are provided with college education. They provide them with specialist training. They have their own special forces. They have their own artillery. They have combined arms and stuff like that. Are they as good as the IDF? I don't know. Probably not. But they aren't like a bunch of just farmers running around with AKs. They are a professional, disciplined, well-equipped army that is able to give back as good as they get. Once again, I don't think they really have an air force, and they're not really comparable to the IDF. But they're not guys you want to mess with. I mean, keep in mind, Israel has invaded Lebanon a couple times, and they haven't really been able to do anything about Hezbollah. Like, if the IDF starts sending tanks into Lebanon to go up against these guys, it's not going to work out well. I mean, they might win, they might get a positive kill ratio, but they're going to be fighting against people who have anti-tank weapons, who have artillery, who have rockets, people who are trained in fighting tanks and stuff like that. Like, they're going to be able to shoot back. It's like it's not really a situation you'd want to be in. I'm sure Hezbollah has also spent decades digging in. I'm sure, like with Hamas, they have tunnel networks, they have bunkers, they have all of this stuff planned out. Geography of Lebanon is hopeful. Like, one of the things also to keep in mind is Hamas has all these tunnels and stuff. They don't really have that many trained soldiers with modern weapons. Hezbollah does. So, once again, is Hezbollah a match for Israel? Probably not. But there's a difference between attacking like a bunch of just disorganized militiamen and what is one of the probably strongest militaries in the world. I mean, it's stronger than a lot of countries. It's much stronger than the Lebanese military. But yeah, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard went there to train them. So my point is that they are a professional army. Like, let's see, let's look at some Hezbollah propaganda. Let's see here.
Lebanon.
So I'm just trying to see here. Yeah, like I think they also have semi-official sanction of uh, the Lebanese government. So once again, so Israel is already kind of sucking against Hamas. They aren't achieving their goals. So their plan is to start another front in the war. And the new front in the war is to invade southern Lebanon, which is going to be a complete and total shit show. Once again, are they probably going to kill more Hezbollah soldiers than they lose? Yes, they have air superiority and stuff like that. But Hezbollah has a lot of missiles, so they can do some damage to Israeli civilian areas, and like the IDF is going to have to go in, and they're going to have to try to root them out, and they've been planning for this. So like I said, this isn't going to be them fighting Hamas, who there are some Hamas soldiers, but I don't think they're particularly, many of them, they're not particularly well equipped or anything like that. But that's the current plan. So they're going to do that. They're going to invade southern Lebanon. At least that's the claim, or they're going to air bomb it or something like that. Now, Iran is going to have to, like I said, retaliate. So I don't know what the retaliation is going to be. If that's going to be missiles, oh, your mic is low. Well, tell me my mic is low. There we go. Then I'll turn it up. It's hard for me to tell. So what am I looking at again? Something I've seen that's kind of funny is a bunch of people were shitting on Russia and China and India, or whoever else was condemning the assassination of the head of Hamas. And they were condemning it on the grounds that they were attacking it in a third party, as it were, a third country, as it were, and they thought that was a bad idea. So, what's probably going to happen now is, well, Iran's going to strike back at Israel. Israel's going to strike back at Iran. Israel might invade Lebanon. Who knows? Maybe Israel will just start firing more and more weapons at Damascus. I do kind of wonder how much ammunition Israel has. Like, they can't be indefinitely bombing everything for a full year. America doesn't even really have the weapons to give them at this point in time because they're all going to Ukraine. So, generally speaking, what people think the goal is, and what Netanyahu's endgame is he's trying to set off a broader war. He's trying to start off a full-scale war with Iran and Lebanon and Gaza. For what purpose, I'm not sure exactly. If the idea is to use the chaos to expel all the Palestinians from Gaza and the West Bank, or to take part of southern Lebanon, or whatever the plan is. I'm not sure exactly what the government's plan is, because keep in mind it's run by revisionist Zionists who want to bring about greater Israel and ethnically cleanse the various places. So, yeah, they're trying to just do that because they know that America, and Stone Cold Lloyd Austin said this, if Iran fights back after Israel attacked them, killed the guy on their land, then America's going to get involved. And I think that's Netanyahu's master plan, is to bring America into the war with Iran, because the Americans who are the Americans, quote unquote, who are pro-war with Iran in the U.S. are just looking for an excuse to do this. So this could be the excuse. If Iran hits Israel, then they're going to have to save Israel. They're going to have to save Israel and come into the war. So all this shit is happening. And we have to ask ourselves the question, what about our main man? What about Joe Biden, the foreign policy president, the man who's sharp as a tack, the greatest guy to ever be president of the United States? Where is he on this? I don't know. Has anybody heard anything from Biden? Has Biden? Let me see if Biden's staff has even posted on his Twitter about this. Okay, he's calling for stuff against Trump. Okay, I don't think he's even mentioning the situation in Israel. Why would he? Let's see what official. That's not his official account. I hate how there's multiple accounts. It's really annoying when I'm trying to deal with this. Okay, so let's see here. Does it even reference Israel? I don't think he's said anything about it. Let's see what. Let's see what's going on. What's the other account? Let's see what Tony Blinken is saying. Why is this not working? Why is the search so bad on? Sorry, I shouldn't come. I just find it annoying sometimes how this stuff works or doesn't work. There we go, Secretary Blinken. So Blinken is saying that. Oh yeah, they're trying to destroy the Georgian government because ethics in NGO funding is an affirmant to democracy. Let's see here. I'm just seeing if he says anything about Israel. Nope, silent on Israel. Let's see what the State Department has to say about Israel. Nope, silent on Israel, so they're not there. So the issue that the point I'm trying to make here in roundabout is who's in control of the United States. We have this crisis. We have Ben Gvir, who I'm going to bring up because he just is like a meme. He just looks like the supervillain. He looks like the caricature in like a Happy Merchant meme. I mean, look at this guy. He's got that famous picture that I always like to bring up. Got the smug. Can I get a physiognomy check here on Ben Gvir, who is the head of the Jewish Power Party? So you got him. He's the Minister of National Security, so he's in charge of the Israeli police force. He looks like a fucking supervillain in that. It's literally called the Jewish Power Party, and that kind of reminds me of a certain symbol from the 1930s, far right Jewish supremacism, jihadism. Yeah, so you got him in charge of the police force, and that stuff. But like, who's going to stand up to it? Like, so here's my question, and people in the chat can maybe provide their response. If somebody in Israel needs to call the United States, who do they call? I mean, like, this seems like a very basic, dumb question. Do they call Darkside Brandon? Do they call Tony Blinken? Do they call Stone Cold Lloyd Austin? Do they call Kamala Lott? Like, who is it that they call and talk to? Like, if Baby Netanyahu's like, look, we want to invade Lebanon. Can you sign off on this? Chuck U. Schumer? It could be Chuck U. Schumer. I don't know. Like, there's so many people, like, it could be. There's no one in charge. Like, who is in charge of the United States? Who is making the foreign policy decisions? Who's talking to Israel? Who's the guy who's going to go and de-escalate this? Is Biden going to go to the Middle East? Is Biden going to stand up to this dude? Is Biden going to stand up to this dude and tell him, no, you aren't going to start World War III? Biden is like... We'll take a look at what Biden's doing, because Biden did some insane shit that we're going to have to talk about. But... And the scariest thing is no one seems to think that this is a problem. That you have, like, once again, how many international crises we have? We have Ukraine. There's some stuff in China. There's the thing that's going on in Yemen with the Houthis and the Red Sea being shut down. We got a potential world war with Iran and Syria and Lebanon and Israel. We have all kinds of crazy shit happening. And no one's in charge of the United States functionally. Like, it's a Venezuela. There's also the Venezuela crisis. People are not going to like my take on the Venezuela crisis. People are not going to like it at all. But we'll get to that in a minute. The Syrian civil war is still going. Turkey's going off the reservation. Turkey said that if they invade Lebanon, they were going to send the Turkish army to fight Israel. Like, you got all this insane shit going on. And no one's in charge. No one's in charge of the United States. And once again, that's not a place you want to be. And the thing is, no one seems to think that this is like a problem. I don't know. Like, if ever there is a time you needed a strong president who could stand up to Netanyahu or any of these other guys in Israel and just tell them no. Tell them, no, you can't do your stupid shit. You can't start World War III. Now would be a good time for that. But that's not the case, and that's not going to be the case, because that's just kind of the situation that we're in at the moment, is that no one's in power. So Biden has been busy. So I think something people don't understand a lot of the time is when I criticize things, it's not necessarily my opinion or my moral code or my personal judgment. A lot of the time it's based on their personal code, their personal standards. So, like, when I make fun of the rules-based international order, that's not necessarily that I believe in it or anything. It's because that is is what America says, and they do the exact opposite. It's that stuff is hypocritical or fake and G-slur and stuff like that. And that's the point that I'm trying to make rather than anything else. And then sometimes it's just like reality. Like, you can say it was wrong, that Russia invaded Ukraine, that they didn't have adequate justification, that it's wrong that they're grabbing pieces of Ukraine's territory, and I think there's a perfectly legitimate argument to be made for that. That being said, the territory is not coming back, and I don't see a point in them continuing this war and just getting more and more people killed. That's not necessarily me passing moral judgment on it. That's just the reality. That's just the on-the-ground reality. So Biden decided it was a good idea to threaten Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. Now, the cope that we're going to see, I'm sure we saw after this, is that Biden is a vegetable. He doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's talking about. So he, in his last, couple weeks, months in office, is trying to force through Supreme Court reform or something like that. So this is what he said. Now, once again, I think like I don't really care. I think like all the stuff about this is causing political violence and stuff is like whatever. But by the standards that they use, by the standards of Trump saying that the auto industry is going to be a bloodbath or stuff like that, this is way worse than I think like anything Trump said in terms of advocating political violence. So it's a bit hard to hear. So let me know if you can hear it or not. I have the volume up to max.
Mr. President, House Speaker Johnson says your Supreme Court reform is dead on arrival. What's your reaction, sir? Speaker Johnson said it's dead on arrival.
Yes, he is.
That he is?
Dead on arrival.
How are you going to get this going? How are you going to get this done?
That's not everything I've ever passed. That's How are you?
So I'm sorry if you couldn't hear that very well. But so the reporter, Speaker Johnson said, your Supreme Court reform is dead on arrival. And Biden said that's him. And then the reporter asked for clarification. And then he said, Speaker Johnson's dead on arrival. And then he had that like fucking creepy smile.
How are you going to get this going? How are you going to get this done?
Like, I don't know.
That's not everything I've ever passed. How are you?
So that is what he said. Now, that sounds like if we're like going by their logic, that sounds like a death threat to me. Now, is it a death threat? Is it just him trash talking? I mean, yeah. But, so Anti-Annihilator says, I think what he meant was just that Johnson didn't get anything meaningfully done as a speaker or whatever. Maybe. But my point is that going off of the standards that we've been, like, obsessing over for the last couple months and how Trump's promoting political violence, I mean, that sounds like come on. Also, should the president really be doing like WWE trash talking like that? Wasn't Trump the one who demeaned the office with his antics? And this is okay though. This is okay. Biden can just do this, and it's perfectly all right. But that's kind of where we're at with regards to Darkside Brandon and his current stuff. Now, some people will say, oh, well, he's just misspoke because he's senile and he has dementia. And it's like, well, do you really want the commander-in-chief, like, talking about stuff being dead on arrival and stuff like that when he's like, in charge of the military? And then the comeback to that would be, well, the people around him know that he has dementia and they're not going to do what he tells them to do. So the explanation for him saying something retarded and potentially dangerous is he has dementia, and because he has dementia, the people around him won't listen to his orders. And that's supposed to make the whole thing better, I guess? I don't know. It's, yeah. So that's the plan. That's the plan at the moment. Okay, so that's what Biden's doing at the moment. He thinks the priority is Supreme Court reform because nothing else is going on in the world that will require his attention. Also, of course, we had the U.S. has passed $35 trillion in debt. I have heard that the interest on the debt will surpass the military spending of the U.S. Within a couple years or very soon. Like as it points out here, this in 2022 it was $30 trillion. So they have run up $5 trillion in debt in the last 2 years. So what is the American budget at the moment? Okay, the federal government spent $6.13 trillion. Budget deficit. I don't really know where the deficit came from, how it was that much. Does anyone know in how many years the interest will be larger than the entire U.S. budget? That's not going to happen. Once it reaches a certain amount, the U.S. will default. Or it'll do something else. Or it'll refinance or just print money or something like that. You can't default if you own your debt in your own currency because you have the ability to just print money, which they will do before defaulting. Let's see here. I'm just trying to find the... Maybe let's look at U.S. debt clock. So to be fair, like the $65 billion for Ukraine is kind of irrelevant. Like who even really cares at this point in time? It's like a couple days of spending. So the U.S. national debt is now over $100,000 per person, or close to $300,000 per taxpayer. So that's cool. So we have unfunded debt. So it says interest. So according to this, every year the U.S. spends the equivalent of $18,000 on interest on the debt. So that's cool. Once again, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or whatever. I don't really get what's so bad about them just forgiving student loans, to be honest. If they're going to be running up like a $3 trillion, you're going to be running up like $3 trillion in debt a year. I'd rather they just forgive everybody's student loans, because that would at least benefit the average person somewhat. I don't know I know that's an unpopular opinion. I know a lot of people are like, oh, but they have to pull themselves up by the bootstraps. The kids made a bad decision and they have to suffer for it. They have to be debt slaves the rest of their natural lives. I mean, I much rather they forgive the debt of somebody who did a Bachelor of Arts degree foolishly than, I don't know, whatever else they'd spend the money on. I don't even know where the money goes. That's at least something. It's at least something. So let's see here. Now, one of the big problems that that the U.S. will gradually face is the whole sanctions on Russia, kicking Russia out of SWIFT, freezing Russian assets. All this stuff has basically meant that in the long term, BRICS is trying to set up their alternative financial institutions. Russia has set up the Mir card. So they have their own payment processing system now that works in some other countries. India and Russia and stuff have started to try to do more trade in non-USD. Saudi Arabia is getting pretty scared. My understanding is they were going to finally confiscate the Russian frozen assets. What's OFAC? Sorry, could you clarify? I don't recall what that that is again. But yeah, so they have been so they were going to seize the $300 billion in Russian frozen assets, but apparently Saudi Arabia said to the EU, if you seize those assets, then we're going to start pulling our money out of Europe, and we're going to try to collapse your economies. So there's all that stuff. All that stuff is happening. Is it going to be an immediate thing? Is it going to be a success? Is the BRICS financial system going to be like a mess? Is it going to take probably decades to work? Yeah, it probably will. But the point is that I feel like the Rubicon was crossed with the entirety of the whole Ukraine-Russia sanctions thing, because the U.S. is not at war with Russia. Also, Switzerland violated its neutrality. Europe violated its neutrality. All of these people basically just destroyed the trust that was placed in the international financial system. And now China and America and Russia, well, China and India and Saudi Arabia and everybody else is starting to get scared, and they want to start diversifying. Later Gator says it's going to be less than decades. I know I'm just trying to be conservative in my estimate, because there are some people who get very bullish on the entire BRICS thing. They're like, BRICS is going to take over in the next couple of years. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think you're going to see a pretty consistent move away from the US dollar, US payment systems and stuff like that. I think the Russian-Turkey bilateral payment system is up. I think Mir cards work in Turkey at the moment. So traditionally what wound up happening was countries would do business in USD. It was basically the gold standard. Oil is traded in USD, and oil is more valuable than, or more useful than, gold. So if you wanted to buy oil, you needed United States dollars. And that gave America a lot of control of the international financial system. So what they're trying to do in other countries is they're trying to use cryptocurrency, or just paying in national currency, or trading in kind. The BRICS have talked about introducing not necessarily a currency, but some sort of international unit of accounting that can function as in place of a currency in exchanges between states. So it's not just that, and I've talked about this. If we look at all the countries that the U.S. has sanctioned recently for political reasons that it's not at war with, Mir doesn't work anymore in Turkey. Okay, they're working on alternatives, probably with non-bank intermediaries. Okay, thanks, Later Gator. I appreciate that. I hadn't realized that. So they've obviously, Iran is sanctioned, North Korea is sanctioned. They periodically sanction China. I don't even really know what's going on with that. It's a mess. I think they threatened to sanction India. Yeah, I think the U.S. has threatened to sanction India over a number of different things. Because of their relationship with Iran, their relationship with Russia, stuff like that. So they threatened to sanction India. This is the Economic Times. Let's see here. They're threatening to sanction China. They're apparently sanctioning Georgia is being sanctioned now. Hungary is being sanctioned, or something like that. I don't entirely know how it means. Or they're threatening them with sanctions. I'm not sure who else is. I'm not sure if Slovakia has been sanctioned yet. Obviously, Belarus and Russia have been, although the U.S. isn't actually at war with any of these countries. So, I'm trying to remember. I think they've sanctioned some other countries that haven't legalized, like, gay marriage or something like that, or they threatened to do it. It's just kind of all over the place at the moment. But it's kind of become a boy who cried wolf scenario where every time they do it, it makes people flee from it faster. And I think Saudi Arabia at this point in time has basically just gone like, look, eventually they're going to come for us because we're not going to legalize gay marriage or ban the death penalty or any of the other stuff that they want us to do. So it's probably good to get out while the getting's good and to try to kind of come up with this. Also, as I've said, I think the political landscape completely changed globally. South Africa won't comply. China won't comply. China, I've read some articles on this, like on the channel in the past. China was absolutely furious how the U.S. is telling them to cut off their relations with Russia. China got really, really pissed off when they told them to do that. Because they said, look, you have no right to tell us how we do our bilateral relations with another country. It's none of your business if we trade with Russia, so just fuck off, basically. And the U.S. was like, okay, well, we're going to sanction you. And then I think Yellen went there and... I don't know. And all this stuff is happening, and they're just making the situation worse. And once again, there's the scenario that... there's the whole scenario. Have they sanctioned El Salvador yet? Because I think they've threatened to sanction El Salvador, haven't they? I'm not sure who else they have. So we're just going to take a side trip to Venezuela. So I'm going to give the take that probably will irritate a lot of people. So I'm just going to come out and say it. Fuck Venezuela. Fuck Chavez. Screw Maduro. They're a bunch... Venezuela is the model of a like corrupt third world shithole ruled by communist dictators, or as I like to call him, the great socialist tyrant. I used to have a series called Venezuela Economy Poor. They give out like toilet paper to soldiers in lieu of medals. There's just massive shortages of everything. They somehow have a petrostate that can't keep the lights on. It's just like, it's a complete and total mess. I heard there's like left-wing death squads. I don't know. Let me see if I can find that. I don't know if I can find it, but people have apparently started to make cooking fires in apartment buildings in Venezuela. Because there's nothing else really there. Let's see here. What else? What is the crime rate in Venezuela again? Like, Venezuela has just a massive amount of oil. Like, a gigantic... Yeah, Venezuela has one of the highest crime rates in the world. It's only gotten worse over time. Particularly post-Bolivarian revolution. It's just gone... It's gone even worse. So, the big thing that people are pissed about... So, you had the Venezuelan election, which Maduro, the great socialist tyrant, won again, because of course he did. And this has led to a lot of international, a lot of candidates, a lot of countries refusing to recognize his victory. A lot of countries stating that he's illegitimate, that he should step down, that the whole thing is fake and fraudulent, and all that stuff. We have two completely different sets of numbers. We have Madero's numbers, which indicate that he won by like 5%. The opposition claims that they won by like 40%, and Madero only got 30%. Now, who even knows at this point in time what the actual voting is? I really doubt that Madero won this election. Like, elections in Venezuela are like some of the most amazing in the world. I think one of the things that wound up happening is when they had a semi-fair election, the opposition won in a landslide. So they created like another House of Parliament or something like that in order to, they replaced their National Assembly with the Constituent Assembly because the opposition won the main election. I'm not sure if this still exists or not. Does the Constituent Assembly still exist, or did they get rid of that? Sorry, I'm just trying to find this. Maybe they don't have it anymore, because they were able to successfully rig the next election, so the United Socialist Party was able to continue in power. Wow, that is a goofy picture. The Venezuelan government, last election, 30% voted, maybe less, and the great socialist tyrant won a massive landslide. So, as you may have guessed from my sarcasm, I'm on the side that the election was fraudulent. I think the opposition probably won the election. I don't really think it's that much in doubt. So the narrative that's happening though is a lot of people in these circles are going, look, Venezuela's this nationalist country. They're anti-neoliberal. They're anti-America. They're anti-West. We love Venezuela. Venezuela is awesome. We have to support them. All the people who say Venezuela is shitty, that they're just neocons. They're just supporters of Israel. They're supporters of Joe Biden. All that stuff. Basically, just that tends to be the attitude that a lot of people has said. Has kind of come out and said. And I just seen a lot of people like, we have to stand behind Venezuela because people don't like them. Now, from my understanding, like, Venezuela is basically a communist country. Like, they aren't even just like a socialist country. They're like an outright communist country. You have all this anti-indigenous European, indigenous Indio stuff where they're just very anti-white, very third worldist, very post-colonial. I think Madero tried to change their version of Spanish to remove gendered nouns from it, and just stuff like that. Like, they're bad, and I'm pretty sure that they funded FARC for a long time. I'm not sure how active FARC still is, or if they've become a part of the ruling coalition in Colombia at this point in time, but they fund like left-wing guerrilla movements all over the place. So a lot of people are going, look, the opposition is this pro-America neoliberal group. We have to stand by Madero. And it's just like, just because somebody is anti-America doesn't mean they're a good guy, and it doesn't mean that you should offer them your unconditional support. I just don't think that. If there's gonna be a place that regime change that gets regime changed, I mean, Venezuela is not a bad choice. Also, Venezuela is creating a refugee crisis. Let me see if I can find something on that. But the country's so shitty and so many people are fleeing. Now, the excuse, yeah, Venezuela and a refugee crisis. The largest recorded refugee crisis in the Americas. I think is literally, yeah, more than 8 million Venezuelans have fled the country, but that's just propaganda. They fled the country because they're, I don't know, neoliberals or stuff like that. They've started to go to Canada and the United States. Basically, the Venezuela government is participating in flooding our countries with people from Venezuela. So that's cool. That's cool. That's good. That's definitely based. We want more Venezuelans in the United States and Canada. What else do we have? So that stuff has been happening. There's crime. I don't know how bad the drug trade is in Venezuela, but my point is just I'm not a fan of Maduro. As you might have noticed, I'm not a fan of the Venezuelan government, and I don't think that you have to rally behind it. That kind of thing. Now, I don't really care about the fake elections. Like, to me, most elections are fake in one way or another. Some are more fake than others. All elections are fake, but some elections are more fake than others. So I don't really care about the vote rigging. I just care that it's fucking commies. Once again, you can be anti-communist without being a neocon. Those two things are not like necessarily the same thing. I think that's something important to keep in mind. So that stuff is going over. Now, I think that's everything that's been happening in the world. We have calls for regime change in Venezuela. We have a crisis in the Middle East. Biden is just checked out. No one knows really what he's doing. Yeah. Should I have Norik? Maybe I'll ask Norik maybe to come on at some point. That's not a bad idea. But I think that covers everything we wanted to cover today. God bless everybody and have a great week. Great rest of the week. More exciting content to come.